What is up, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. Today, we are talking Eagles. We're talking NFL draft and free agency and the upcoming 2024 NFL Scouting Combine. We're also going to talk a little Phillies, since not much has changed here with the Philadelphia 76ers. Joining us is Rob Lange. Go give him a follow on X at Philly_Madness. What's good, Rob?
Hey, man, I just, it's that weird time, right, where the NBA All-Star break happens. The Phillies are just getting into spring training. There's not really much happening in the NFL until, next week or the week after. So, but that doesn't mean we're not here. We're still here coming up with something to talk about. And I'm sure there's something that I will find that makes me angry that I'll bring up. So don't worry.
There it is. Also joining us, as always, he is Ryan Reese at Philly Sports PSA on X. Good evening, Ryan.
What is going on? I'm just going to roll past whatever that was. And listen, I'm always excited to talk about Eagles. And hey, listen, Philly season, baby. We're on the road to the World Series. Let's go. Let's start talking about it, man. Let's go.
By the way, I don't think we've talked about the Phillies on Party on Broad in probably years. So
I think one time, Dibes, we brought it up the year that they ended up going to the World Series, but it was early in the year. And I remember you saying, I don't believe this team has it in them. And me saying the same thing, don't get me wrong. And then all of a sudden they were like in the World Series. We're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe this is a premonition.
Yeah, maybe. Guys, if you're watching us live, comment with us. Let us know your thoughts. Let's jump right into our first topic of the night, and that is the position the Eagles should focus most on in the first round of the draft. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. What's your take?
Man, unlike many of the years past, this one could be wide open. I feel like there's a solid argument for a lot of positions. And, if we're just calling a spade, if every position had a guy, we'd be talking about it even more. The fact that running back and linebacker don't really have first round talent this year kind of excludes them. But listen, I'm going to take the hard stance and I'm going to say edge. And listen, it's something that they are already familiar with. They love building through the trenches. In fact, the last three draft picks have been defensive linemen. And listen, it's not a lot gonna be helped this year. Reddick, we don't know what's happening with Reddick. Brandon Graham, we might sign him for his last go around, but not too much to be expected there. And then you have Josh Sweat, who really hadn't had a great season last year. And then you have Nolan Smith, who hasn't really done much because they don't play him. So you're going to need some help there. And, typically they don't reach out in free agency for any meaningful edge rusher. It's rare, obviously, Reddick kind of being a simple case against that, but he outplayed his contract for sure. I just think there's a lot of talent. There's a steep drop off, and we could go ahead and get ourselves like maybe a Latu out of UCLA, maybe a Jared Verse out of FSU. These are guys that I would absolutely love to have here and rebuild this line, because you already have Jordan Davis, you have Jalen Carter, you have Nolan Smith. You bring in another guy here, that four right there could be your four for the next 10 years. So I'm all for it. Honestly, I think we need to focus on edge and then maybe, linebacker in the second round for me.
Love it. We're going to be talking about edge a lot over these next few topics as well. Rob, what's your take?
Well, the last couple of years of the draft, a couple years ago, Kyle Hamilton's on the board when the Eagles pick. They don't take him. Last year, Brian Branch on the board. Well, no, he wasn't on the board, but the Eagles did not take him. Whatever the situation was, they had an opportunity, they didn't take him. This is the year you got to take a safety. You don't have two starting safeties on your roster right now. So why not, do something that you've never really thought to do, and that's draft a safety in the first round. especially with a guy that I'm sure we're going to talk about later on in this, Cameron Kitchens from Miami, if he's available there at the back end of the first round. Um, I just think, look, you're putting a hell of a lot on just saying, well, re-blanket in one spot and we'll make the other one work. Now, this is obviously before free agency. Do they go out? Do they sign a guy? Who knows? And that changes a lot of things. But if not, you haven't had that look, you had Brian Dawkins for years, and then there was a fall off for many years. Malcolm Jenkins came in, became the leader of that defense. You win a Super Bowl. He's gone, and we haven't replaced it. You've got to, at some point, get a homegrown safety that you can have here for 10 years. And I think this is the year where you really got to think about doing it in the first round.
I love it. Yeah, that's my take too, Rob. It's got to be safety. Number one would be linebacker, but that's not going to happen in the first round. And that's the question. The Eagles need to find a 3-down linebacker, free agency or draft, but first round not happening. Safety is so vital for the Vic Fangio defense, and I still think they need another corner. I'm not sold on Keely Ringo as CB2. Darius Slay is getting up there in age. Give me a guy that can compete. And in the first round, like that is a premium asset that I always believe in cornerback and how vital it is in today's NFL, which is a stone cold passing league. You look at safety, though, Kevin Byers likely on the way out. Sidney Brown's not going to be healthy when the season probably starts. I really, really love, and I say this every year, man. I say it every year, and hopefully this is the year we see a shift in thinking for Howie. But there are some really good safeties, I think, at the top of this draft, especially round 2, that maybe, as we've done in our mock drafts, the Eagles possibly trade back, get some more assets for day 2, which is loaded in linebackers, loaded in safeties. The cornerback position has crazy amount of depth. That's where you load up. I don't know. But, let's roll on to the scouting combine, which is literally a week from today, which is truly insane. We've been covering a ton of the NFL draft. So I'm going to throw it to you, Rob. Lead us off, man. Who is the guy that I think the Eagles fans should be looking forward to hearing about the most?
Well, the guy I'm going to go with is a guy that's kind of an unknown to me, and I'm going to, basically go to my draft gurus here and ask you guys a couple questions. But I've seen his name now pop up a couple times. He plays a position in need, and that's the cornerback out of Iowa, Cooper DeJean. 6'1" corner. I know just from talking prior to going on air here with Dives that, there's thoughts of, is he a corner? Is he a safety? Where's he going to be? But, I'm going to kind of leave it to you because here's a guy I don't know much about. I know he was on a defense that was very, very good last year. So, I'm very curious to hear more about him. And, is he a guy that the Eagles can build around at one of those two positions over the next few years?
PFF is really high on him. When we do mocks, like, my gosh, they have him in the top 10. So that's way too high for my liking. But yeah, I think Cooper DeJean is a terrific prospect. But the two things to know about Cooper DeJean is just elite football IQ and elite versatility. Whether you draft him to be an outside corner, a slot corner, a safety, he can do it all. And that definitely is attractive for a Vic Fangio defense. I mean, let's be honest, like the Eagles have been carved up from that slot position week after week. Like Cooper DeJean's got size. He's a ball hawk. He's a really good tackler. The reason why I say he might be more of a safety is you look at Iowa between 2022 and 2023. He played a lot more in the box in 2022, and his numbers were a lot better than they were last year. But regardless where he plays, he's a first-round talent. I don't think he's leaving the first round. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, listen, he's definitely an intriguing guy because Again, is he a corner? Is he a safety? Does he have a preference? And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he kind of ends up, where NFL teams kind of see him. And yeah, I don't see him getting into the second round. Some team is absolutely going to get a guy, and depending on how you want to use him and your system. So yeah, he's definitely a one on my target as far as got to keep my eye on how he does in the combine, how maybe his process was with talking to some NFL teams and kind of how they view him because that's just as equally important as he views himself. So
Yeah. Do you think he's a cornerback or a safety? Like I view him as the premier, like one of the premier slot defensive backs in this draft.
yes, I if gun to my head, I'm gonna say safety.
Okay.
I technically in my rankings, I have him listed currently at a corner, but that certainly could change. And yes, it's Polkai. Just FYI, 4 touchdowns, baby. Don't you ever forget.
I love it. I love it. All right, Ryan, who's your guy you're watching the most?
So I'm gonna stay in the defensive backfield. Rob obviously already mentioned, and it's Cameron Kitchens, and this is the guy that I am so high on safety wise. I've seen some mocks where he falls into the second. Again, it's kind of more about the positional value than anything more, not any kind of deterrent on his play. He is an absolute ball hawk. He's aggressive. He is a true center fielder out there, covers ground super efficiently, locks both sides down. He I think great at reading the quarterback, and he also has a great uh, power to his hitting. It's explosive. It's impactful. He's a turnover machine. He certainly can be a little too aggressive sometimes, and that's certainly it's really funny. I wasn't even looking at it. And now I see it on the bottom there. Uh, but yeah, again, it's something that I think is going to come, time, in the NFL and learning under, such a guy as Vic Fangio. I don't know. But yeah, he's a guy that I kind of almost want to just confirm, almost kind of how I feel about him already. And again, this has to be a high target for the Eagles. Somebody that can come in and immediately be a starter. We need an immediate starter, and that's why, guys. I know you were saying something about cornerback being in need and not being so sure on Ringo. While I agree with you, I am also not 100% sold on Ringo, and you do need to get a guy to replace Slay. I still think safety is 10 times as important as corner right now, just because of the fact that you have Reed Blankenship and a broken Sidney Brown right now as the only rostered players, essentially. Once Byard gets kicked to the curb and Justin Evans is just we throw his stuff out on the streets. So
Yeah.
again, it's super important, and I really hope kind of a trade back to the end of the first round, grab Kitchens, and boom, we're off and rolling.
Yeah, Kitchens is easily one of my favorite prospects in this draft. We've talked about him 1,000 times. Love that pick. Hulk chimes in saying, wouldn't be mad if we took Jackson Powers Johnson, maybe move him into right guard, kick Cam Jurgens to center. I don't like the selection if Kelsey.
No, you can't do that. If Kelsey returns, you do not touch the offensive line in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah,
wait later to get some depth. You already have Driscoll and Opeta as free agents, so whether or not you're bringing them back, you still need to grab a nice backup depth for that position. But yeah, if Kelsey's back, forget about it.
Listen, Jackson Powers Johnson is terrific. He's a great.
Yeah, I'd love it.
They can't keep kicking the can down the road on these like premium assets. They got to get these guys on the field immediately.
Yes.
I like Cameron Kinchins, but a lot of mocks have Tyler Newbin ahead of him. That's totally fair. Tyler Newbin's a great prospect
Really
out of
good, yeah.
Minnesota, physical, for sure.
Hey, listen, you tell me we'll come out with that 50 pick with Newman.
Mhm.
I'm absolutely loving life.
I think Newbin's better in the box, whereas Kinchins, I think, gives you a little more upside in coverage. Cameron Kinchins, absolutely. The guy I am going with, and Ryan, you touched on the edge position, but this guy's climbing up the draft boards as well, and that is Darius Robinson. This guy was one of the winners of Senior Bowl week, dominated during Senior Bowl practices, especially now being considered a first or second round pick. He's got great size. He's got a great frame. He's got length for days. He played in a 3-4, lined up everywhere across the D line. So we know that attracts the Philadelphia Eagles. He's not an elite athlete. He doesn't have a lot of twitch and bend. So I think that's what I'm watching for at the NFL scouting combine. I want to see how he measures up, and I want to see how he compares to his peers. But Darius Robinson's a really good prospect. Could be a guy in that first round area when all is said and done.
Yeah.
The other guy I want to touch on, of course, and he might not even be in the Eagles' reach, but it is Terrion Arnold, a cornerback. I think for me is my CB1 of the draft. Just like Ryan said, I want to see if he tests as well as I think he will. Terrion Arnold. Well, we know the cornerback class is absolutely loaded. But this guy has great size, great tape. He's only 21 years old, ball skills, could dominate and press, great athlete, all the tools to be a CB1. He's just climbed the draft board week after week after week during this college football season. I want to see if the hype is real. So there's been a lot of chatter about like Quinyon Mitchell and different guys kind of climbing up that board as well. So Terrion Arnold is a guy that I'm excited to kind of see measure up against his peers.
Yeah, he's a great one, and like you said, he kind of rose throughout the season, whereas Robinson has kind of risen in the off season, so to speak. He had a great Senior Bowl, and yeah, he's definitely one to watch for sure. To kind of see if he continues this rise and secures himself a first round pick.
Yep. We have a comment from Peter. What linebacker would you like to see the Eagles draft? Any thoughts?
Oh man, where do I begin?
I look at that and I go, if you take nostalgia out from everything that I read, see, Cooper would be the first choice.
Yep.
And then, if Cooper's gone, nobody's disappointed, I don't think, if they draft Jeremiah Trotter Jr. But if both of them are sitting on the board and the Eagles are going to take one, I think Cooper fits a little bit more because of the size factor, right? You already got Nakobe Dean, who's undersized, who's going to get another chance here. And there's the talk, and you guys could probably talk to this more than I can. Jeremiah Trotter is a little bit more of an undersized backer. Do you want two undersized backers running your team back there? Probably not if you can avoid it.
Yeah, that's a good point, honestly. Yeah, and you're right. If both are on the board, Cooper's got to be the pick. And yeah, listen, there is a nostalgia factor. There is, this would be a guy that would instantly come in and be one of the most popular rookies that we've had in some time, and it's a lot of pressure for that. So that might be a negative effect on him. But there's a couple other guys: Cedric Gray out of UNC, Peyton Wilson out of NC State. Those are certainly guys that I think maybe in the third round that I wouldn't mind had they fallen to our pick at 97. So yeah, there's definitely a couple of guys, unfortunately, just not a first round, guy out there, but Junior Colson, Michigan, Jalen Ford, Texas. God, I could probably name them all right now, but
yeah, I really like some of those guys that you just named are really interesting. Jalen Ford, really good coverage linebacker, really good frame length. Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky is a really interesting name. Keep an eye on him. Like these are like more so day 3 guys, which would be more likely round area where the Eagles will draft a linebacker. Another guy that I like is Aaron Casey. Not a lot of people know about him, but a great run defender. His tape is really fun. You mentioned Peyton Wilson. I mean, he's been kind of linked with the Eagles for a while, but he's older. He's got major red flags with some medical concerns. But those are some guys that I think are really good. You think Arnold will go top 15? I do.
Yes.
I do.
Yes, 100%. I think. I don't see how he doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Let's roll on to Eagles free agent targets. Who wants to start first?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. Who did I say again? I forgot.
You got Jordan Brooks.
Oh, that's right, my man, Jordan Brooks. This is a guy that I honestly, when he came out a couple of years ago in the draft, that I was really high on and really wanted to be an Eagle. I mean, granted, there's a linebacker every year that I want to be an Eagle in the draft, but this year, this was this guy, Jordan Brooks, out of Seattle. He kind of had a slow start to his career. And didn't kind of live up to his kind of, I guess, hype, so to speak. But last couple of years, he's really been, quite the centerpiece, honestly, for that Seattle defense. And I think he's. I think what he had 4.5 sacks, a fumble, forced fumble, fumble recovery, 111 total tackles. But this guy was, not only great in the run game, great in coverage, great rushing the quarterback. He just kind of seems to do a little bit of everything there for that Seattle defense. And listen, I just think he's one of those guys that is probably not going to be, super expensive. Maybe like some of the top names that we're all been talking about. So I think this might fit more of the Eagles kind of style, where they don't have to spend so much money on the linebacker position, but they can still get a guy who is productive and can honestly take over and be the leader, not only for the linebackers but potentially for that entire defense. So Jordan Brooks is definitely a guy that I'm interested to see where he goes, and would love nothing more to have him in midnight green.
All right, Jordan Brooks for Ryan. Rob, who's your guy?
All right, we have done. I'm a contrarian, guys. Okay, we've done. I feel like nothing but defense when it comes to these free agents. There's another position in need on the other side of the ball that seems to have a hole right now. Okay, with DeAndre Swift probably not coming back. And there's a guy out there who had a down year this year compared to his Pro Bowl year the year before, when it just so happens, his offensive coordinator that year is now the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator. I'm talking about Tony Pollard, running back. Yes, I know what uniform he's on. Yes, I hear the not DeMarco Murray reborn takes all out there. Keep in mind, DeMarco Murray was a square peg in a round hole in Chip Kelly's offense. I think Tony Pollard in this offense, the way with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback, he could get that spark back that he had 2 years ago. I think if you're not going to bring back DeAndre Swift, you're not going to go out there and pay Saquon Barkley money that, Saquon Barkley wants. I think this guy could be a perfect addition to this team. I think, he fits the mold. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He hits the holes fast. He'd love to run behind this offensive line. And let's face it, the guy has been in a place where frauds live and never actually win anything. Why not come to a team and an organization that actually does win every now and again? I think Tony Pollard here with Kellen Moore back could be an unbelievable fit at the running back position.
Tony Pollard for Rob. I like it.
Yeah, it's a good point. Honestly, we have been talking about a lot of the defense and even guys under Vic Fangio that were like, oh, well, hey, why not do it for the offense? Bring in a guy under Kellen Moore that had success. And listen, it's something we need to address. So, yeah, good on you. That was good.
I'm going to kind of do the same kind of theme here tonight. Shocker. We're going Andrew Van Ginkel. This guy, the Eagles need help getting to the quarterback. 43 sacks last year. That ranked 20th best in the NFL. If the Eagles decide to trade Hassan Reddick, which I don't believe they will, this guy could or should be at the top of the list, man. He had a career year with Fangio in Miami last year, 53 pressures, 8 sacks, 31 run stops. He's been a solid rotational pass rusher for the Dolphins the last few years, but really stepped up big time last year when Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb went down with an injury. During that last 6 weeks of the regular season, he had 26 pressures, 2 sacks, over 145 pass rush reps. He was a 5th-round pick in 2019. He's only 28 years old. But what's really fun about him is he's got really good versatility. He's a guy that can drop back in the zone. He could put his hand in the dirt, get after the quarterback. He can hold his own in coverage. He was targeted 25 times in 2023 and only gave up 4.7 yards per target, which, that's significant given how much the Eagles were carved up in that middle area of the field. And he's probably going to be a bargain. I don't see him making a lot of money in 2024. Could 2023 be a flash in the pan? I mean, it was his biggest season by far in terms of production, maybe. But yeah, AVG, that's my guy. And I think there's definitely a lot of hype for him to go to the Philadelphia Eagles because of the reasons Rob just mentioned with Pollard and Kellen Moore. Yep.
Yeah, no, I like it. He definitely had a productive year. And hey, listen, I'm all for bringing in people that are already used to this system.
Yeah.
It only helps the other guys that have been here to kind of, acclimated a little bit better to that system. So I'm all for that.
Yep. We have a comment here. Do you think Eddie Jackson is too old to sign? I was thinking about doing Eddie Jackson. He was like on my top 3 list of free agent targets. He's 30 years old. He's 30.
That's not old. No, that's fine.
I think in a short-term contract, he's fine. I mean, I think the Eagles' safety position would benefit from a more of a veteran kind of presence as well, given the importance of it with Vic Fangio.
I'd be surprised if they don't address the safety position in free agency. I just feel like the years they've come in this bare, I feel like that they've gone out and they've signed guys. If you remember the year that they signed Malcolm Jenkins, there were, God, I don't know why I can't think of the names now, but one guy went to Denver. I can't remember who the other one was, but there were other names, not Malcolm Jenkins, that everybody was thinking. One of the guys was an Oregon guy, and it was with Chip, and they thought Chip was going that route. I think this is a year that they sign a veteran because, like you said, Dives, they need a veteran safety. They need a guy back there that can, control everything. And look, Reed Blankenship's a nice kid, nice player, but he's not that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are 3 more free agent targets. Real quick, we've already covered L'Jarius Sneed, Patrick Queen, Blake Cashman, Geno Stone, and Xavier McKinney. There's shorts of those on the channel with highlights and our thoughts on those guys. Go check them out. And we'll have 3 more coming to the channel probably sometime tomorrow on our 3 targets tonight. Let's roll on with our final topic of the evening: expectations for the 2024 Philadelphia Phillies. Man, I was outside. I took my dog to the dog park. I didn't work today, and the sun was hot. Like, you could feel it. Like, you could feel like baseball's back. I'll throw it to you, Rob. What are your expectations for the Phillies this year?
Well, I was a little disappointed with them this offseason. I understood that they weren't going to be, going out and getting the big names, the Shoheis and all that stuff. But like they literally did nothing until last week. They re-signed Aaron Nola, which I was fine with. But you had a team that, as constructed, lost to a less talented team in the Arizona Diamondbacks in the NLCS. And there were holes, whether it be another starting pitcher, whether it be a couple relief arms, whether it be, that consistent hitter in the lineup. Nobody really was consistent last year in that lineup. And I understand that there's the old, Trey Turner will never do that again. And you expect this, Castellanos to hit better. And if we have to go into a season where we're just expecting guys to perform better than last year across the board, that concerns me. That's a worry for me. Now, I think, I don't think people are giving it enough credit, but this Whit Merrifield signing from last week is huge. It's huge. He's a super utility guy. So he's going to play for you probably 4 days a week, I would think, early on, whether it's spot start out in the outfield. Maybe he gives, Bryson Stott a day off at second base. He can play all these different positions. He's willing to play all these positions. But in my eyes, I still want to see another starter. Okay. You have Nola, you have Wheeler, and you have Ranger. I get it. But look, Taijuan Walker just fizzled like nobody's business towards the end of last year. You never had a fifth starter. Sanchez is a guy that he can spot start for you. I'd like to see them go out and spend a little bit more money on a starter and bring him in before camp. But with that said, this team should absolutely be one of the top wildcard teams. I won't say win the division because, let's face it, the Braves have owned the division, and the Braves are really good. I mean, I think it's the Braves and Dodgers and then everybody else in the National League this year. But look, if some of these things come into play, if the Trey Turners get back to himself and Castellanos is more good than bad, and Schwarber just bats 215, 220, just Jesus, bat over 200, please. If he could do that and the pitching could be a little bit more consistent, the team absolutely has an opportunity. But I'm not sitting here today saying World Series or bust for these guys because I just don't know if they're ready for that. I still think they're a piece or two away from saying that. I mean, and it's not fair what the Dodgers have done. It's just not fair. It's not friggin' fair what the Dodgers have done. But I expect the Dodgers to do what the Dallas Cowboys do every year, and that's blow it in the playoffs because that's just what they do. So I'm excited, but, I was a little disappointed with how reluctant they were to do really anything all off season.
What about you, Ryan?
So I'm glad you said this, Rob, because it's funny. I was thinking the same thing. And then I looked at it, and the Phillies have actually spent the second most money this offseason. Now, granted, a mile behind the Dodgers. But, again, signing Nola was the most important thing. And you're right, though. They need another starter. I mean, Montgomery is still sitting out there. Snell is technically still out there. Now, I don't know if they're going to reach that far, but I think Montgomery kind of fits that mode where you can have Wheeler, Nola, Montgomery, Suarez, and then, listen, if Taijuan Walker's your fifth starter, I am happy.
Yes.
But they also need to figure out what they're doing officially in the bullpen. Who is going to be the closer? That's obviously what honestly cost us a trip to the World Series, is the mismanagement of that and the overuse, of certain guys. And, I don't know if it's going to be Alvarado. I don't know if it's going to be, a mixed bag of whoever, but I would have loved them to see them go out and get an actual closer, a guy that's his role. That's what he does. That's what he's always done. But outside of that, I still think there's time to maybe get a bullpen guy to get another starter. But yeah, I think they were pretty happy with the old run it back kind of, where just get this team back as much as you can. You seem to have a bunch of guys. It seems like the Merrifield signing, I think, is as Rob said, is super crucial. This is a guy that could literally start almost anywhere, and give guys rests more often. I mean, you didn't really have a true utility guy. You had a bunch of kind of randos and a bunch of guy call ups from AAA. Yeah, it would hit a home run, and we'd think they were the next coming, and then they wouldn't do anything for the next 20 days. So, yeah, listen, I expect them to be a top wild card team. Rob said it perfectly. This is the Braves division, and I don't see them touching that. But again, you give me somebody like Montgomery, you give me another bullpen guy that I can get excited about. Listen, maybe stranger things have happened, and they might be able to touch that. But still, I'm super happy. They're a playoff type team. They know how to win, and they have a stacked roster. If they can just put it all together, man, I don't see how they couldn't keep doing what they've been doing in the playoffs and get to the World Series or close to it. So,
one thing before we wrap it up here. The Phillies added Bryce Harper's stare down with the Atlanta Braves to the ballpark down in Clearwater. Was that a good move or was that a bad move?
That's a great move.
Great
move. Because, look, I know that the playoffs didn't go the way it wanted to, but that's going to be one of those defining moments in Bryce Harper's career as a Philly, where he literally gets mocked in the clubhouse after making a costly error, and then comes back and hits 2 home runs and just stares the hell down out of that guy. So I'm okay with that. And I will say to Ryan, them not signing a closer tells me one thing, and that's that they're giving Orion Kirkring the opportunity to win that job. That kid's off speed was nasty, but he needs a second pitch. My hope is that was all he worked on this offseason. Because if he does, that off-speed pitch is filthy.
It is.
It's filthy. Yeah. So, I have a feeling they're going to let this guy get an opportunity to go out there and win this closing role.
Listen, like you said, if that's the case, if he does have a good added pitch or two, yes, I'm all for it, because I did like some of his stuff. He's just, again, young kid, just needs to get a little more experience.
Did not need to be put back out there the night after blowing one save because you knew what was going to happen. Love Topper did not love that choice.
And listen, to kind of go back to that Bryce Harper moment, this team, regardless of the skill, regardless of whatever, this team is built on that clubhouse and the vibe that is in this team. And that, I think, might be their greatest strength, is the fact that they are an absolute team. They have fun. They love effing around. But, man, when it comes time to getting serious, they absolutely get serious. And that Bryce Harper moment was something I think, as fans, we're going to remember for a long time. And as Rob said, it might be a defining moment. It's Philly's defining moment for sure.
No more dancing on my own.
No, cut it loose. Get something new. Let's
There's got to be another techno type of song that you can play that they can jump around, and Garrett Stubbs could be Garrett Stubbs too.
Right, exactly. Let Stubbs be Stubbs.
Love it. All right, guys, that wraps it up, guys. One more time, if you're watching, please be sure to hit that like button. Help us grow this show. Rob, final thoughts on everything tonight. Plugs.
Look, this is a fun time of year. It may not seem like it, but it's a fun time of year. The Sixers are now out of the All-Star break. Let's see if they can keep a playoff push going. The Phillies are going to start ramping it up. We'll be starting that season before you know it. And then on top of that, you have the fun off season of an NFL football team, and a very important one for our NFL football team. So intrigued to see what's happened over the next few weeks. I think they said the legal tampering period for free agency is only 3 weeks away. So we're getting close. So time to have some fun. Hopefully some things for us to cheer about and discuss as time goes on.
Oh, fingers crossed. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, listen, you're right. Generally, I've always thought the few weeks after February is kind of the worst time of year for a sports fan. The playoffs hasn't really pushed in the NFL or the NHL and the NBA, and You don't have March Madness yet. Football's sadly over, and but the more and more you get into this offseason of the NFL, the more fun it becomes. And you're right. Legal tampering starts in 3 weeks. In fact, tomorrow starts the franchise tag period. So teams can start franchise tagging. So that's, again, something to kind of keep your eye on. But yeah, listen, I'm excited for this offseason for the Eagles. I'm excited that we are less than a week away from our first spring training game for the Phillies. And we're about month, maybe 2 months away from the push for the playoffs for the NHL and the NBA. So it's a great time to be had, and stick with us, and we'll bring it all to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for watching, guys. Again, there will be shorts of our free agent targets coming out tomorrow. Give my man Rob a follow on X at Philly_Madness, at Philly Sports PSA for Ryan. I am Dives, Mr. Crockpot, for Ryan, for Rob, for myself. See you Monday at 9. Stay awesome, everyone.